What's going on, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Basketball is Fun and Cool. As always, I am your host, Zach Cronin, and today we're going to be talking about the NBA on Christmas Day because this was one of, if not the best Christmas days I've ever watched. Actually, that I'm not even going to limit it to Christmas Day. From top to bottom, this was one of the greatest slates of NBA basketball that I have ever watched. Before I get into it, I'm just going to ask if you at any point you find yourself enjoying this video, subscribe, leave a like, drop a comment as well. All of those really help out with the algorithm. And if you do any of those three things, you will become my new favorite person. Now, let's go ahead and get into it. The NBA on Christmas Day is an institution. It is one of the few institutions in this world that I hold very dearly to my heart. This is the unofficial start of basketball season. Typically, by this point, all of the players, all of the teams, they are in rhythm for the season, and this is when everything starts to heat up. This is when the MVP races heat up, the playoff seedings, the trade deadline, everything ramps up after Christmas Day. As a result, the NBA tries to get a head start on this by generally scheduling the best teams to go up against each other on Christmas Day. Not only that, it is really the one day where basketball is like the main focal point. Like if you turn on TV, there really isn't anything else to watch, especially, later on in the day. Obviously, you put the Yule log on, or at least that's what my dad does. He puts the Yule log on in the morning. Sometimes there's various Christmas movies that you watch, but beginning at 12 and running all, up until, 11, 12 that following night, it's NBA basketball. This year, the games were spectacular. I was a little skeptical of the matchups at first. I thought things were going to get a little weird, especially considering, like, for instance, how shit Philadelphia has looked to start the season. But I have no gripes with how any of these games turned out. There was only one double digit margin of victory, and it was 10 points. Typically, over the last couple of years, we'll get a stinker, a real fucking stinker, where someone gets beat by 17, by 19, by 22. There was none of that this year. Lakers Warriors was decided by a possession. Knicks Spurs was decided by a possession. Boston and Philly was decided by 4 points. Wolves and Mavs was decided by only 6 points. Additionally, all of these games had a notable performance. We got off to an incredible start with Wemby and Mikal Bridges dueling. Wemby, he may not know it. I hope he does, but he's going to be on Christmas every day for as long as he's playing in the NBA. So he better make sure that he doesn't plan anything going forward because he is going to be in the primetime slot very soon. I believe he was spectacular. What did he have? He had 42 points, 18 rebounds, 4 blocks. Guy was just on a different level. And I don't give a shit that he shot 16 threes. You know why? Because overall, he shot 51% from the field. And remember, guys, this kid is 20 years old. We followed that up with Wolves Mavericks. I didn't watch much of this game. I was traveling at this point. I was going out east to, spend Christmas Day with family, but looking at the box score, you had a vintage performance from Kyrie, 39 points in a game where Luka left after 16 minutes. And Anthony Edwards looked great. Like he's another guy who's going to be a mainstay on Christmas. I thought that this matchup in terms of breeding rivalries was a little bit of weirdness. I would have probably preferred to have seen Denver, Minnesota, and Phoenix Mavs, especially knowing what Luca and D-Book feel towards each other, how they have a little bit of hatred for one another at some place in their heart. But I have no issues with how this game turned out. We then shift focus to Philly, Boston. Philly being on the schedule was kind of a slight to Milwaukee. Milwaukee has looked terrific as of late, and I do really feel like you should have Giannis on Christmas. Like he is one of the three best players in the NBA, a perennial MVP candidate, really just one of the most decorated players that the NBA has ever seen, especially considering the fact that he's only 30 years old. Next year, I hope they find a way to get Giannis on Christmas Day because I think the way that he plays, and this is not to, I'm not throwing shade at like new basketball, but the way that Giannis plays is very reminiscent of old school basketball with a little bit of flair from the modern NBA as well. But overall, he's just a terrific player. He's an MVP caliber player, and you really should have him on Christmas Day. But regardless, Joel Embiid was there. He looked terrific. Tyrese Maxey, terrific. Them dueling with Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown, terrific. This was also shocking because the Celtics have been that team over the last couple of years that has blown out their opponent by double digits on Christmas Day. So it was really nice to see a competitive game up against them, especially when folks like myself consider the Celtics like not unbeatable, but I think they're the favorite to come out of the East. And it just shows that the NBA is still uber competitive. There is a tremendous amount of parity within this league. Of course, we have to talk about the Lakers and Warriors. I might get choked up thinking about LeBron and Steph not being a part of my NBA viewing experience going forward. But I was seeing tweets about,
Oh my God, the NBA, they're milking this LeBron Steph thing, and we get LeBron versus Steph again.
motherfucker, this is why. 115, 113. Lakers win on a game-winning layup. Not even by LeBron, by Austin Reeves, but just LeBron vintage. Curry vintage. LeBron 31 and 10 in 36 minutes. Steph 38 and 35 minutes. We got a blocked by James and a Curry double bang. Is it fucking 2017? Dog, I'm not kidding. I was literally bricked up hearing Mike Breen make that call. It took me back to some of the best basketball viewing experiences of my life. And the fact that we're still able to get this in 2024. Steph Curry is like, what, 37? LeBron's going to be 40 in a few days. Just absolutely spectacular stuff. And beyond that, beyond the nostalgia, this was a legitimately good basketball game from start to finish. Again, I didn't watch most of the first half. I was traveling back home, but I made sure to catch the final 24 minutes of this game once I got home. And I am so glad I did that because I, I I literally have nothing else to say about this game. I can only rave about it. And then of course we close out with Suns Nuggets. I'm not going to talk too much about this one because I didn't watch much of it. The 10:30 Eastern start time is a real pain in the ass for me on Christmas. I never watch that game on Christmas Day because I am so exhausted from traveling. Just a little glimpse into my personal life. I celebrate Christmas Eve with my family. That's the Italian American tradition that we practice. So on Christmas Day, we'll either go out to New Jersey or I'll go see my wife's family who lives on Eastern Long Island. So I'm not really, you know, awake at the end of the night after traveling for 45, 60 minutes, and then on top of that there's always a smorgasbord like sausage and peppers and eggplant, short rib, and I'm just like a couple drinks deep at this point. Like, I'm ready to just go to bed after the prime time game. I usually check out, but even for the folks who did stay up to watch that game, or even the folks who live in the other time zones and were able to watch it, they were treated to 25 points and 15 boards from Nikola Jokic. They were treated to 27 points from Kevin Durant, 27 points from Bradley Beal. Just good quality, ethical basketball. I have no gripes with how the NBA conducted itself this year. And I'm even more impressed because the NFL tried to take Christmas from the NBA. The viewership metrics are out for the NBA. We'll get to those in a minute. They're not for the NFL quite yet. I'm sure the NFL had a rather sizable viewer base, even though it was on Netflix. But the thing is this, guys. The NFL is the most popular sport in America. I do enjoy watching a little bit of football every now and then. LeBron even said it in his post-game interview yesterday. Christmas belongs to the NBA. The NFL has Thanksgiving, and I watch football on Thanksgiving. I think the games are generally good. But Christmas Day belongs to the NBA, and I think that this proved it. What also proved it is the fact that people were actually watching. I did a video on this recently. I've talked about this seemingly ad nauseum on TikTok as well about the NBA. I don't, not the NBA viewership crisis, but how NBA viewership has been declining this year. And I went into, a host of reasons why. I'm not going to touch on it in this video, but the NBA's PR department released this article. I'm going to go ahead and read it to you guys. NBA delivers most watched Christmas Day in 5 years with viewership up 84% compared to last year. Every game in every time slot saw increased viewership year over year. Even the noon game, was up 98%. Prime time, of course, Lakers Warriors drew near, it peaked at over 8 million viewers. I'm not surprised about that. I understand the LeBron and Steph effect, but it was also prime time on ABC, so that's gonna have some other viewers who maybe aren't NBA diehards checking in. But the fact that every game was up year over year. Sixers Celtics up 3%. Wolves Mavs up 6%. Nuggets Suns was up 161% despite being in that late time slot. NBA generated 500 million video views, yada yada. It had tremendous viewership numbers on League Pass as well. That's something that doesn't get discussed in the ratings discourse, is how the NBA performs internationally. It doesn't have numbers, but NBA Christmas Day games were distributed in 214 countries and territories in 60 languages. I'm sure that if we had hard numbers, it would be sizable. This is what the NBA needed. It needed high quality basketball on Christmas Day. Not that interest in the NBA is dying, but just to remind everybody that when basketball is good, it's fucking good. Zach Lowe said that on Twitter. He didn't say fuck. He said freaking awesome, I think it was. But I have to agree. Obviously, I'm biased. But when I'm watching high-level basketball, late in the fourth quarter, star players are trading shots with each other. It's a spectacle. I think back to, it was Bills Chiefs. I forget when it was, but it was I think it was it was either the AFC, not the AFC divisional, but one of the late season games or something. Whatever. The final score was like 48-45, and Mahomes and Josh Allen were trading touchdowns for the entire fourth quarter. Like, that's what I like to see in sports, right? I think back to earlier this season when Jaden Daniels led the comeback for the Commanders against Chicago, and he threw that Hail Mary at the end. I like watching dynamic offenses at work. And the NBA is unique in the sense that every team has the capability to be a dynamic offense. Right? Steph and LeBron trading shots is cinema. Wemby and Mikal Bridges trading shots is cinema. There's literally nothing negative I can say about this year's Christmas Day slate. I always try to be objective in my analysis. I try not to be biased towards the NBA, and when there is stuff for me to be critical of, I will be critical of it. But this is one of those few moments where I sincerely have nothing negative to say about the league. And we can even touch on the Disney broadcast that they did on ESPN2. I thought that was so funny. I thought that was a really unique idea. Obviously not unique. The NBA kind of stole it from the NFL. The NFL did an animated thing, but I think that was neat as well. I don't know how many people tuned in. I don't know how many Disney adults got their kids to, watch NBA basketball because they had fucking Mickey Mouse shooting 30-footers and Donald Duck attacking Wemby off the dribble. Regardless, that I put that on for a few minutes, and I told my wife, I was like, babe, you got to look at this. This is the funniest fucking thing I think I've ever seen. Again, I can't say it enough. Shout out to the NBA. Shout out to Adam Silver. Shout out to, of course, the 10 teams who competed on Christmas Day. I really do think that the players take Christmas Day very seriously. It's a lot for them to be away from their families. If they have children, they may not see their children open presents on Christmas Day, although I'm sure they have, alternate traditions, but it's tough being away from your family on Christmas. I understand that. And I think that the players feel that if they do have to be away from their families, if they do have to put on this show, they are going to play with maximum effort. And I really appreciate that from them. As a fan, sincerely from the bottom of my heart, I'm thankful for all of the stars who performed well on Christmas. But I'm also thankful for all of the end of the bench guys, all the role players who take it just as seriously as LeBron, as Steph does. So shout out to them. Just an incredible 12 hours of basketball. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and close this video. I thank you guys so very much for coming to hang out with me today. As always, I will catch you in the next one.